Hello, welcome to Kevlin B. In this video, we are going to calculate a classic consulting guesstimate on Starbucks annual revenue from India. Now, such kind of guesstimates are not directly asked in any case study. No one is gonna ask you to calculate the revenue of a company during a case study, but they can ask such questions in an initial guesstimate specific round. But the focus for this video would be on understanding a different approach to solve such problems, especially where customer behavior is not absolute or predictable, which we will discuss. But first, let's start with some clarifications. So, by annual revenue, what I actually mean is the total sales across all the stores present in India, and which includes both food as well as beverages. But we won't have to worry about food and beverages separately because we are not calculating profits where food have different margin and beverages have different margins. We are calculating the revenue, so we can take an average order value of a customer and we can proceed. Now let us break down different components of revenue using a MISI framework, that is mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive framework. If you're not aware of this, comment down and I'll make a different short video on it. So the annual revenue is basically a multiplication of the average revenue per store and the total number of stores present in India. Now, if we break down this further, we need to calculate the average revenue per store. So this component will be derived from three different separate components. That is the daily customers, or the total number of customers visiting a Starbucks store in one day, multiplied by their average spend or the average order value, and multiplied by the operating days, that is how many days our store is open throughout the year. Now let's look at the approach. So this is not a classic demand side approach or a bottom up approach which starts with the population. Such demand side approach are useful when we are certain or we are absolute about the customer behavior. For example, if you will be calculating the revenues of a barber shop, then we know a person goes to a barber shop every month or every 2 months and spend some money. So we know according to different income levels, people go to different kinds of barber shop, and from that behavior we can calculate the revenue. But here we are not sure when a person, especially in India, goes to Starbucks. So we will consider a more certain and absolute supply side approach. Let's see this in action. So first of all, we will calculate the total Starbucks store in India, and that too by different tier cities. There is 8 major tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. Then we will calculate the customer flow, that is how many customers are actually visiting those stores in one day. Then we will estimate their average spend or the average order value by one customer. From both these components we will get the revenue per store, and when we will multiply this revenue with the total number of stores present, we will get the total annual revenue. Now let us look at the different kinds of assumption. So the first one is the store counts. Now, as I mentioned, we will consider different tiers. So for tier 1 cities, that is 8 major metro cities, I am assuming there are 30 stores per city. Now for a city like Mumbai, there could be around 60 to 70 stores, but for a city like Calcutta, there could be around 15 to 20. So I'm assuming an average number to be around 30 cities or 30 stores per city. For tier 2, out of 50 cities, I'm assuming only 30 have Starbucks stores, and that too 5 stores per city. Why only 30? Because again, Starbucks market penetration in India is quite low because of obvious reasons like the culture of coffee in India, and especially for high value orders. We all know Starbucks is quite expensive, coffee value ranging from around 200 to 300, and people are not spending on such high value items. So our tier 2 penetration is limited to around 30 cities. For tier 3 cities, I'm assuming total stores are 20. So if we calculate all these stores, we'll get around 410 stores in India. Now let's look at the customer flow. Now this is very important because this customer flow approach is used in multiple guesstimates, especially where we need to estimate the demand or the requirement of anything. For example, if we have to calculate the total number of petrol pumps needed in Delhi, we have to calculate what is the customer flow in one petrol pump. So for this, we need to understand how are we going to proceed. Now, a typical Starbucks store won't operate all the 24 hours. I'm assuming that their operating hours are around 12 hours per day, and the customer flow is not constant throughout these 12 hours. There will be some peak hours, whereas some regular hours. So I'm assuming peak hours to be 4 with 40 customers per hour, so around 160 customers in total, whereas regular hours are 8 with 15 customers per hour, so total 120 customers. If we add both these up, we'll get around 280 to 300 customers per day for an average Starbucks store. Now, this 300 customer per day is in tier 1 city. In tier 2 and tier 3 city, the number will get decreased for around 150 customers per day in tier 2 and 100 customers per day in tier 3. Now, let's look at the average spend or the average order value. So for tier 1 city, I'm assuming an average customer spends 400 rupees, which constitute both food as well as a beverage, because in tier 1 city a person might go to Starbucks during office hours or on a coffee break, so he might take something to eat, a sandwich to eat along with a coffee. Whereas in tier 2 city, I'm assuming it to be around 300 to 350, because again, in tier 2 city a person going for a Starbucks coffee will be because of some shopping or some fun activity. So they might get a coffee cup, post a picture, take a snap, and move on. So the average order value is less. For tier 3, again, the behavior is quite same. So average order value is around 300 per customer. Now let's start with the calculations. So we need to calculate revenue per store. We already have the numbers from the assumption. So daily revenue calculation is based on the customers visiting per day and their average spend. So for tier 1 city, their daily customers were around 300, 320, and their average spend was 400 rupees. So in total, we get around 1,28,000 rupees per day. That is the revenue per day from one store. Annual revenue, I'm assuming that there are 350 days of operation per year. So with 1,28,000 revenue per day and 350 operating days, we'll get nearly 4 crores of revenue of a Starbucks store in 1 year. For tier 2 city, from the assumptions part, we had around 150 customers visiting per day with an average order value of 350 rupees. We'll get 52,500 rupees as the annual revenue per day. And with 350 operating days, we'll get the annual revenue to be around 2 crore rupees. For tier 3, similarly, we'll get 1 crore rupees of revenue per year. Now, if we calculate the total revenue by multiplying the total stores present in India, for tier 1, we had 240 stores multiplied by 4 crores of revenue per store. We'll get nearly 100,000 or 1,000 crores of revenue from tier 1 stores. From tier 2 and tier 3, we had around 170 stores with 2 crores of revenue per store. We'll get nearly 300 crores of revenue from these. If we add both these up, we'll get nearly around 1,300 crores of annual revenue of Starbucks from all these stores present in India. Now, this was it for this video. If you think you learned something new, please comment that down and like and subscribe to the channel. I'll meet you in the next video. Thank you.